6:40.
At what point can we move for adjournment?
All right.
It's not the
And it doesn't need a second, and Robert's rule.
Hey, Tim, can you put the agenda up for us, please? Director Schmidt, please. Thank you, sir.
There you go.
There it is. I guess I probably don't need.
All right.
No.
It is now 6:30 p.m., February 27th. I'm calling together the meeting of the Meridian Township Planning Commission. First thing I'm going to do is roll call. Commissioner McConnell. Here. Commissioner Brooks. Not here yet. Commissioner Scales. Present. Commissioner McCurtis. Here. Commissioner Shrewsbury is not here yet. Commissioner Richards. Commissioner Snyder gave a notice earlier today she would not be able to attend. Commissioner Tresize. Here. And the chair, Commissioner Bloomer, is here. So we have a quorum. The first thing that I'm going to do is ask if there are any members of the public who wish to make a general statement to the board. The record should reflect that no one raised their hand. All right. Then we'll move on to item 4, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So move.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
There is no opposition. The agenda is approved for tonight. Now, about the approval of the minutes from the February 13th meeting of this board.
I move approval.
Support.
Any discussion or amendments offered?
Yeah, I would offer an amendment that I've made comments at the end of the meeting which were not reflected in the minutes. And so and the staff has said that they will go back and capsulize my comments. And so my second of the minutes would be with the proviso that the amendment to include my comments would be included in the approved minutes.
I take that as a friendly amendment. I approve. You should probably indicate the nature of your comments.
Yeah, the nature of the comments had to do with answering questions from those making public comments, and that we should refrain from that long-standing practice of not commenting, but commenting if we wanted to after we got back to the session where it's only the planning commissioner speaking.
Very good. All right, subject to the approved amendment to the motion, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
No opposition. The minutes of the February 13th meeting of this commission are approved. Item number 6, communications. There are none listed. Mr. Schmidt, did you have any that might have come in since the agenda was prepared? We do not. All right, so there are no communications to discuss. Therefore, we are on item number 7, 7A, item 23004, the Schultz Veterinary Clinic expansion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The proposed, not that one, this one. The Schultz Veterinary Clinic is located right here. This is Bennett Road running east-west at the far right-hand edge of the property, or the screen is the traffic circle there. This is the golf course, College Fields, just outside the township, and this is the previously approved Silver Leaf development. Schultz Vet Clinic is looking to add on to their property, their building. They have previously added on to at least once in their history in 2006. It is a special use permit, which is why it's in front of you this evening for a public hearing. In the rural residential district, which this is the zoning for the property. As staff was reviewing this, we did discover that there's an issue that a previous requirement for installation of a pathway was not installed yet on Bennett Road. You can see roughly how the sidewalks are kind of flowing in and out here around the wetlands. And this section has not been installed yet. This was required in the 2006 approval. We had already noticed the public hearing, so we want to have the public hearing, give people an opportunity to speak, give the planning commission an opportunity to provide feedback. But we will be working out the details of this pathway and whether or not a wetland use permit is required as we move forward here to try and get this project going.
That pathway is the responsibility of the clinic?
It is, the property owner, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion on this issue?
I do know that the applicant and the builder are here this evening, if you have any questions that you'd like to bring up. But again, this will be back in front of you
can ask.
as soon as we can work out the specifics of the pathway issue.
We have representatives of the clinic. Any of you wish to address the panel? Please. Yes, please. Please identify yourself by name and home
Sorry, I
address.
didn't fill anything out. I'm Ingrid Schultz. And, yeah, we know and have known that we need to do this pathway and just have not done it because of the other part of the parcels and the frontage of Bennett have not been developed any further. Nothing new has been put in there. So knowing we had to do this addition, then we obviously knew about the putting the pathway in, and we're working with the township to try to figure out how we can solve this as far as a, I don't know, cement pathway or a boardwalk or something like that. So we're trying to figure that to be contiguous with the rest of the pathway there. Presently, that's the school bus garage property, and they put in a sidewalk and it's sinking, so, or it sank somewhat. So anyway, we're trying to figure out a good solution to this. We can fill the wetland, a certain portion of it, and we do have enough area to, is it called reclaim? Mitigate, to make this appropriate, so we could put a sidewalk in if need be. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I have to say.
Yeah, thanks. I was just going to commend staff for their diligence in that. That was, the pathway was something I remember being very much in favor of with the prior application, and delighted to see it staying on the front burner. Sometimes those things can get lost in the weeds, but when your staff are doing their jobs, then you catch it.
Are there any other questions or comments from this?
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
have just a quick question.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask and maybe it's in the packet and I missed it, but is there a time frame for the sidewalk to be put in place?
So typically with a situation like this, what we would do is that it will be a part of, however it's designed, when we get to the point, it will be a part of the approval, and it will be a part of the site plan approval, which is the next step. And so it'll need to happen either contiguous with the construction or essentially immediately thereafter.
So, Mr. Schmidt, if I understand correctly, there's nothing further for the board tonight on this issue, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Are there any other comments that members wish to make? No? All right. Any other discussion from the panel, from the board? No. All right. Then we'll move on to item 7B, the Tidal Wave Auto Spa.
Thank you. So this is a request to tear down the existing Outback Steakhouse building located not exactly on the corner of Newman and Marsh Road, because that's where KFC is, but around the corner of Newman and Marsh Road. It's sort of this, it's not an L, it's just a very oddly shaped property is what it comes down to. It's obviously a cutout outlot from the overall target Kroger development. The proposal in front of you this evening would be to demolish that structure and build a new car wash in its place. So just a few brief comments. The engineer is here this evening to discuss the project further. Property, the future land use is commercial. The property is zoned commercial, which does C3, which does allow for car wash, minimum frontage of 100 feet, 10,000 square feet of lot area, which they certainly meet. The traffic, in comparison, the traffic expected from something like this is actually relatively minimal, especially in comparison to the sit-down type of restaurant. And so no formal traffic study is required. The basic trip counts are included in your staff report. Functionally, the PM peak hour would be 78 total cars for something like this. The project will still need to be reviewed by Ingham County Drain Office and Ingham County Road Department for any issues related to drainage or the curb cuts, but at this time, they're not proposing to change any of the curb cuts, so we shouldn't have a major problem there. There is a minor setback issue that they do have because of where the property line is. on the Marsh Road side, they meet it, and then as you go around to the south, it sort of pinches in a little bit as it goes around KFC, and so they have to make some minor adjustments there to meet the minimum landscape buffer requirement, but nothing that we expect is going to hold this project up, along with some minor changes to the canopy vacuum station pushing out in front of the car wash. So staff has reviewed this, and at this point, we have no major concerns. There's obviously a couple minor things that they need to work through prior to any final decision, but we are comfortable in holding a public hearing this evening, and would turn it over to the applicant to speak further to this application.
This is Ms. Breslin, is that right?
Yes,
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Lauren Breslin. I'm with Bowler Engineering. We're the civil engineer representing Tidal Wave Auto Spa for this property. So yeah, we're here tonight just requesting recommendation for approval for the special use permit for this site. So just to give you guys some background on Tidal Wave Auto Spa, they were founded in 2004, headquartered out of Atlanta, Georgia. Tidal Wave is really designed to be an attractive addition to communities. If you had the chance to look at any of the elevations, they include a lot of really nice stacked stone, glazing on the side of their buildings. They use a muted palette, which I know is oppositional to a lot of the other car washes that you see developed nowadays. They also use a reclamation system where we're using about 70% of the water coming in, the rest will go into the sanitary. And they are what we call automated with assistance. So the tunnel itself is automated, but there will be up to about 5 max employees on site. And this is really just to drive home their, customer service. There will be an employee at the end of the tunnel helping anybody wipe down their cars, at the vacuums, just as an extra hand for assistance. So if you guys would kind of let me just walk through the application as far as the non-administrative portions of it. Is that okay? Okay, perfect. I know I saw that you had a site plan in the, do you want to pull that up? I'll just kind of walk you guys through the site plan and how it's laid out and how it works. Yeah, I saw it down at the bottom, right?
Just a sec.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're okay.
It's a better looking building than half the other buildings that are already there.
Perfect. There we go. Okay. Let's move up a little bit. Okay, so we're maintaining the same point of access off of Marsh Road. There is that easement, that 50-foot easement there that's a public drive. Maintaining that so that there's access down to the KFC, there's access around the top portion that goes over to the Target and that commercial center over there. The way Tidal Wave lays out as in a sequence where all of the customers will kind of enter through the drive-through area. They'll come up to a kiosk. After the kiosk, they'll have 2 different options, and they'll be able to either go through the tunnel for a car wash, or there's a bailout area into that center kind of arena, and that's where all the vacuums are. If they continue through the car wash, they'll come out on the other side and come down into that vacuum arena. And then from that vacuum area, there is a one-way exit out of that. And they really stick to this because it kind of is a really nice flow of traffic. It really decreases the amount of conflicts in circulation on site as far as the automobiles go. So they stick to this kind of traffic flow within all of their sites. So as far as the application goes, just to review, the traffic study was done. They did an assessment between the automated car wash versus the high turnover sit-down restaurant, which was once the Outback Steakhouse. Overall, there were reductions in trips in the evening peak hours as well as Saturday peak hours. We requested a waiver for the natural features assessment. This is primarily because the site, if you know it, is has very little natural features. It's pretty much impervious at this point. So there really are no identified wetlands, no major tree stands, no flood areas, no steep slopes, no endangered wildlife. So as far as the property goes, with being adequately serviced by public facilities, obviously we have existing roads that are accessible from the site. The public sanitary we know is there just because it was previously a restaurant. And storm drain, we've been in coordination with the Drainage Commissioner just to try to get more information on the underground networks that we can connect into. One of the topics was the use of the property not being a detriment to the community. As far as noise goes, the car wash itself has garage doors on both ends. So when a car enters, that garage door closes, this cycle will run, and the garage door on the other end will open and allow the car to go out. So everything's really contained within that building. And lastly, it says not adversely affecting any natural resources. Like I said, it's primarily impervious. We're actually going to be decreasing the impervious. There will be lawn areas. We'll be adding landscaping and kind of creating more natural resources than what are out there. So if you guys have any questions for me. Yeah.
Just have, what is the typical operating hours?
Typical operating hours are 8 to 8, except for like seasonal. If it gets darker earlier, they'll normally do 8 to 5 during during that time.
Did you say that you can actually recycle 70% of the water?
Yes, that's what they said.
That's very impressive.
Yes, actually, the technology that was created for this car wash, he was an MIT graduate. The car wash also, for more fun facts about tidal wave car wash, the car wash itself actually has automations in it where it can tell what kind of car enters the car wash, and it washes it accordingly. So I have not met him yet, but I think it's very impressive. So yes, up to 70%. They say 65 to 70% is recycled. Mm-hmm.
Could I, looked at this site plan earlier and didn't entirely grasp it.
Yeah.
It looks to me like there's 1, 2, 3, 4 entrances and exits to this. Am I reading that right? There's the main one off of Marsh Road.
The main one.
There's that little driveway that runs back to the shopping center. There's a connection over to the KFC property, and then it looks like in the bottom right corner, there's also another entrance off of Newman Road.
Yes, so there are, in that aspect, there are those 4. The far side that's right off of Marsh Road, that's an easement for a public road that just needed to be maintained for the KFC. The one that you see directly to the south, I know that they spoke about, we looked at possibly cutting that off. I think so. Actually, one of the comments that we received is that they didn't want to do that because that is one of the entrances for KFC. So they wanted to kind of maintain that connectivity right there to the neighboring, businesses. And then the one to the north is just a part of the easement that goes up towards the Target as well.
Okay. I'm asking because in general, we like to see fewer curb cuts rather than more.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the last time this group considered a car wash application, the new one out on Grand River, we worked hard to get those 2 Paul Revere driveways closed down. And then during later discussion at the ZBA, that we ended up back with 1 again. And I'm just curious if thought has gone into either on the Marsh Road or the Newman Road access. And it sounds like you've talked about maybe abandoning the Newman Road one, but since that's part of the function of I haven't used the KFC, is that they have a counterclockwise circulation? Is that how they?
I'm not sure. I'm going to try to think about
Let me
it.
pull up something real quick. Yeah, so the existing KFC, you kind of come in, you go around the back of the
Could come in
building.
from Newman Road into the drive-through.
You absolutely, that's typically how I do it, because there's less people that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're keeping, I mean, because, I think the issue here, frankly, that we're running into is that, this one's got a secondary access, this serves as a secondary access to this property. This is the primary access to this property, so this is the secondary access here. This is the only access to this property, and it's a secondary access to this property. So because it's all intertwined, there's not an obvious one to remove.
Yeah.
Right.
And that road to the north is not part of our property, so like just maintaining it, if we cut it off, it would just nullify that road. I know we previously looked at a layout that came in directly off of Marsh Road, so you like kind of come into the the drive-through area there. What we find with that kind of intersection, especially since there's that road to the north, there's conflict in that, but also the fact that people have to make decisions very quickly. Like if you turn off the road and if you're like, oh my gosh, wait, I'm going to the auto spa, am I crossing another road to get to, into that? So we just wanted to kind of have people know that they're turning right or left, and then it kind of doesn't make the decision of where they need to go as, sudden. And
I think it's also notable that you're not creating new cuts. These are pre-existing.
yeah, they're pre-existing cuts.
Well,
The
I
only
guess
one-
this is more of a conversation. I'll wait for when we discuss it.
Yeah, I'm curious, if I understand this site plan correctly, you're generally using the Marsh Road entrance as the primary entrance to this, turning everybody south
Yes.
to go around the end and enter the tunnel from the northeast corner and across through the tunnel and then out again towards the Marsh Road.
Yeah, so we thought about flipping it. What, do you mean like just flipping it this way?
No,
About the
I'm just
building?
trying to figure out what you've got on here.
Oh, yeah, okay, I'm sorry. So if you're coming in off of Marsh Road and you make a right, the entrance into that drive-through line would be on your left. And it's just a one-way drive-through. Those parking spaces we have at the bottom are for employees. So that would be employee parking. And then they would continue through the drive-through. Technically, Marsh Road would be the primary entrance, but if you had people coming in the direction off of Newman Road, they could also use that road as an entrance if that's where your home is and that's where you're coming from. So I guess there's two primary entrances depending on where you're coming from.
And I understand you have 28 vacuum stations.
Yes.
That seems like an awful lot, but
Yeah, it's a subscription based car wash, and it's pretty popular. Even like the bailout area, the reason why we have that is because people just come to vacuum their cars and not go through the car wash.
the other question I had is on the southeast side, outside the main area where you're going to have your traffic pattern and
Yep.
a wash. It seems to be a large parking area.
They
Right now,
haven't-
impervious surface.
They haven't decided what they're going to do with that. I know it's, they wanted to subdivide the lot there and possibly put in something else for future. I'm not sure what that's going to be quite yet. But yeah, that's what the anticipation is.
My thinking is this is not the best area for drainage in the state of Michigan. Central Okemos area, Meridian Township tends to flood a lot, and the more impervious surface, the more likely for that. So if that is not going to be used, you might want to look into, or I would encourage you to look into, possibility of reducing the amount of surface parking.
Surface over there? Mhm.
Commissioner Scales?
Thank you.
Can I get you to slide that picture up again
Oh,
a
yeah.
little bit
Sorry.
so I can see the full? Because I'm trying to wrap my head around the traffic flow inside your facility here. Can you walk me through that one more time? I know you just did it, but
Yeah,
Maybe easier on the
absolutely.
site plan.
Yeah,
It's on the site
that'd be
plan, there's
good.
arrows on it.
Okay, so, here it is.
I really would like to look at the picture.
Do you want, I have a
I'm very
post
familiar
one.
with the area, and that's
Do you want,
why I want to see the picture.
So functionally, you're coming in, you're gonna swing south, and then turn here, and you'll go around, and the building will functionally be in the same place.
And how do you exit? The same way
Same
you came
way.
in?
Or you come down,
So-
vacuum your car.
you have to go into the area where there's vacuums and there is an exit there. It's not an entrance. You have to exit there. So it's just, people have to go through the drive-through area to get up around into the vacuum area. So that way it creates less conflict of people just coming in and out. It just creates like a single flow of
Where do you come out at?
traffic circulation. So you come out right here
Understand that there are no do-it-yourself contractors in there?
on
It's just the.
this secondary drive.
So you come out and you're going to exit back onto Marsh?
Yes, or you could go down onto Newman. You could go left or right there.
So we have to do it in voting on this?
But people are going to be coming in at Marsh.
Yes. Or down here on Newman, depending on where you're coming from.
I truly believe that you're going to be very, very successful. And that's my problem looking at this, is the traffic backup at Marsh, on Marsh Road. That is a very
So I think
busy road.
this might help a little bit.
I was about to say, we could reference, there's also the traffic study too. It's reduced traffic trips than what was there with the Outback Steakhouse.
They weren't too successful. That's why they're not there.
I think it wasn't, the traffic study isn't referencing specifically the Outback Steakhouse, it references uses. So they're assessing an automated car wash in this area versus a high turnover sit-down restaurant.
You probably have 20.
So just so we're clear, so they'll come into the site,
Yeah, this is a good one.
and there is a barrier between them and the car wash. So you'll have to come in, swing down, and it's a one-way loop, and then you're in like a holding pen now before you can get out. So you either exit here, you exit over here. And so all the stacking, the reason this design works well from our perspective is all the stacking, like if the car wash is super busy, it's on the site as
Yeah.
opposed to being on Marsh Road. Unlike the Starbucks at Grand River in East Lansing, where all the stacking is on Grand River and Gunson because there is no stacking on the site.
How many lanes is
Sorry, I
that?
forgot that we sent you this color
okay.
one because this one is perfect. Like,
It's a-
you can see it really well.
It's 2 lanes circulating and 1 lane of car wash.
Do I understand correctly that there are no hand wash units here? It's just vacuums and the tunnel?
Yes.
So if you get in the,
Sorry, I should have brought this up to begin with because it just shows it much better. All of this green, as far as reducing impervious, this will all be lawn. This will be a barrier with trees and landscaping, so it kind of forces people to, go left or right. And then the traffic pattern will be just a single loop into this. That's why I call it a vacuum arena, because it kind of just bullpens cars coming out.
Well, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I'm curious, the demand that drove the selection of the site.
I wish I knew. They have the Tidal Wave does all of their site selections and they come to us. They have a strategic way of doing it within corporate. They don't tell us the secret sauce.
Yeah, we
Of how they pick.
rarely get to hear the secret sauce.
I know. I wish I could. Honestly, I have to tell you, that's a question I get a lot from municipalities, and I don't know. They come to us after they pick the site.
Yeah, I guess my concern is that if we as a community are exhibiting a shortage of car washes in between the time that the industry notices that we don't have enough and the time that we build the last one, at what point did we meet our demand?
Quota, yeah. I'm
I don't-
confident that this
It looks to
one,
me like our newest car wash, I'm sorry, we'll get into this in discussion, but yeah.
This is, however, already a highly commercialized zone. Home Depot is like 200 yards away from there.
yeah.
In the Kroger shopping area. Right, does the board have any further questions of Ms. Breslin? Thank you very much. Are there any other public comments respecting this particular issue? None? You don't want to have any more?
Okay, no, then we discuss.
Okay, then we'll close the public hearing on this. Is there any board discussion on this issue? Yes.
Yeah, just to comment on the part that's not included in this that has all the parking, I think that's, I've been an advocate that we look at all this additional parking and is it really needed? And obviously it doesn't, without a restaurant, you're not going to need that much parking. So I guess I'm excited that there's some potential infill opportunity with that piece. It looks like there's plenty of storage, if you want to call it that, for people who are waiting to get their car washed. Like Commissioner McConnell, I kind of wonder about, car washes, but I mean, I guess we have a history in this country of building too many of things. And we all know, if we've been around long enough, know that banks and all kinds of things. But it looks to be a good project from an infill standpoint, at least in my viewpoint. And so I guess from my vantage point, I guess I don't see anything negative about this project.
I appreciate the design work that's gone into this, providing a great deal of stacking room. It's a compact site. It does provide a little more green than there is now. So I think if this is a site for a car wash, this is a well-designed one, and I would also support it.
Commissioner Skiles.
I can support the project based on what I heard from staff and the fact that the staging is basically on site. I just can't imagine someone wanting to put a car wash there, but they know their business better than I do, obviously. Hopefully that it's something that can survive the test of time. It's kind of difficult to turn a car wash into something else if it doesn't work. Restaurants can be turned into more restaurants. And they can be turned into car washes, obviously. But I can support the project.
I'm picking up on Commissioner Richards' comment. I'm a little unclear on the part of the parcel, if I'm understanding right, that isn't part of the current application. And I think I heard that there's potential interest in, at some point, doing a lot split and doing something else with that portion. So I guess I'm curious what leeway we have as a commission to recommend, to base in part our recommendation on what happens with the rest of the parcel that we're looking at that isn't in the current design. And I can imagine a drain commissioner coming along and saying, well, here's my chance to make you tear out all that asphalt and dig a big hole and do all the right things with it. the drain commissioner has different authority than we have. So I guess I'm interested in what leeway, what say we can have over the rest of the parcel that's not in this current site sign.
So you would have to make some sort of determination that not developing that portion of the site falls under the special use permit provisions that are in front of you. Staff would have a very hard time recommending that you include any sort of conditions related to a part of the site they're not developing. I think you've probably hit the nail on the head. I think the Drain Commissioner's office is going to have a long look at this site in terms of how to address the site functionally, I'm guessing, probably drains to the north into that pond in front of Target. And so the question I think is going to become, does the pond still have the capacity to accommodate everything, or do we need an additional area of storage? And that is something that is outside the purview of the Planning Commission, because that is an outside agency that's looking at that.
I just want to make one comment and then I'll come back to you.
Go ahead.
My observation here is that this is non-invasive to the existing character of that region, that zone. It's heavily commercialized. I often joke that if I don't go to Home Depot at least once a week, they call me to see if I'm okay. And this is consistent with the nature of the shopping area there. It's not like they're planting this in the middle of a residential area or even farmland. It's very consistent with the existing nature of the use of that property. And the fact that there's significant green space around it, I think would only improve the nature of the community in that area rather than be invasive. So I would tend to support this. I think it's a reasonable use of the property.
My thought, and it was mentioned about by staff, but I believe the north there is a catch basin pond there, so I guess we can't really control. They're taking pervious service, making impervious service pervious, so hopefully that all works out, but it's going to be outside of our control, I believe.
I would say that this is a design that I would support as well, simply because I think it's well thought out and the design works, especially for this area. But I'm a big fan of infill development, and there's this parcel is zoned for this type of development, so it takes away blight and adds some life to an area that needs it in that commercial zoning. So I would tend to support it as well.
Are there any other comments from the board? I think that amounted to a straw vote.
I think it did.
Functionally, we have a straw vote.
Yeah. All right. So the record should reflect that the board is predominantly satisfied with the plans and would vote to approve if asked to.
We will we'll work with the applicant on those few minor changes that I mentioned, and we will get this back to you in the very near future.
Thank you very much. All right, then, closing items, public hearings 7. We now move on to item number 8. There appears to be no unfinished business for today's discussion, and no other business. There are no master plan updates, is that correct?
I would just say that I appreciate the conversation that you guys had at your last meeting. I've listened to it a couple times now to pull things out. Senior Planner Shorkey is much better at the long-range, big-picture stuff than me. That is one of my shortcomings as a planner, and I work hard at it. But he is, I appreciated the conversation you guys had with him at the last meeting. That's going to help us really get a good document going. I will say that we have started drafting copy, running it by other directors, running it by communications to really start getting this into one voice and getting a draft together here in the very near future. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That was relating to item number 10, master plan update?
Yes, sir.
All right, then We're into item number 11, reports and announcements, Township Board update.
So I have a couple. The Township Board has introduced formally the Lake Drive rezoning. This is the property behind GZD's between Lake Court and Lake Lansing Drive. That is expected to be adopted on Tuesday night of next week, and then they'll move forward with trying to design that site. The Township Board continues to discuss recreational marijuana. There's a work session tomorrow night where they will discuss it. It is the only topic on the agenda. And lastly, just circling back to the Hazlet shopping center redevelopment, Hazlet Village Square. Previously, we've mentioned that there was a CRA application, Commercial Rehabilitation Act application, approved by the board. That never went to the state because the ownership was an issue. The actual person getting the certificate had to own it, and the developers didn't own it yet because the closing hadn't happened. They have closed on the property now, and now the Township Board is reauthorizing that approval. It'll go to the state and hopefully move this project forward. We are still looking at demolition this year. They are moving right along, and they're anxious to get going. That's what I have in terms of Township Board updates.
Bill, did you want to make any comments on the issue we discussed?
Yeah, if I could, I've followed the board's discussion on the recreational marijuana question, and it seems that some things have evolved since this commission had the discussion, and we were talking a little bit beforehand, and I was just hoping for some clarification and making sure that our deliberations are being communicated to the board as it continues to wrestle with the issue. And the specific one I mentioned earlier was the issue of the drive-through prohibition, which we discussed here, and in particular whether that prohibition impacted curbside service. And I left that discussion with the impression that those were two separate things. And by the time it got to the Township Board, that was the draft they were considering had both prohibited. So I thought that it could be of interest to this commission to understand a bit more from staff how that discussion has evolved and how that thinking has evolved with the attorneys and such. So I was hoping we could just get some clarification.
Yeah, as I've mentioned multiple times on this topic to multiple boards, my comment at the Planning Commission off the cuff was that I believed that curbside would probably be permitted. I think I actually said probably. And the township attorney disagrees. He's of the opinion that it's not something that we should be permitting. It's unclear. The state enabling legislation is agnostic to it, does not speak to it. But if we are treating this like we treat alcohol, it is not something that would be permitted, just like drive-through would not be permitted. And so that is the current draft of the licensing ordinance. The zoning ordinance has no role to play in this.
Yeah, there was also some discussion, and forgive me, my memory is not as good as it used to be, about the overlay districts. And my recollection from our discussion was focusing on the Towner and Dawn overlays that staff had recommended no longer be included. And I remain unconvinced by those arguments, but I understand that that's the position, and it sounds like the board is going in that direction. But there was also some discussion of some properties that had been excluded from some of the overlay districts because they had been built out, Hotel and Red Cedar Flat and others, since the original overlays were developed. And I can't recall that discussion here at this level, so some clarification there would be appreciated as well.
Yep, I believe that was the second meeting the Planning Commission discussed it. the first meeting, there was a question of whether or not there could be changes to the overlay boundaries, and we said we'd look at it. I believe we removed the Red Cedar Flats, the apartment building on the south side of Northwind Drive, the 3 hotels at Jolly and Okemos, and the car dealership were the properties that were removed. We left the Hagedorn site untouched, the Hazlitt site untouched, and the East Grand River site untouched.
And the logic there was to, an assumption that since they're built, what they've been built out as is what they will always be, and we don't want them to convert to a marijuana establishment? Was that the logic behind the exclusion of those properties?
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. When that map was originally designed, those properties were a little more open in terms of their use, and they've functionally been locked into what they're going to be for the foreseeable future.
Okay, well, we don't need to get into a big discussion of it this evening. I was just really hoping for clarification at this level so that those of us who participate in the board's continuing deliberations, including what tomorrow evening, can have a benefit of a clear recollection of where we all feel.
Any other questions of Mr. Schmidt about the board update? Very good. All right. Item B, the liaison reports.
We had a BRA meeting last week or the week before, I don't remember which it was.
Week before.
And started and approved the repayment schedule for the Marathon development on the corner of Hazlitt and Marsh Road. Payback to for the cleanup there will be spread out over, I think, 27 years or less, depending on their actual tax levying, and so that's going forward. They have completed and have full occupancy. I also went to the ZBA meeting a week ago, and in that case, 2 weeks ago, a property owner on Jolly Road asked for permission to expand some Trex decking and a bridge in her wetland area. There's already a bridge there that's treated lumber, which is not particularly good for wetlands as it rots. And so she wants to replace that with an artificial wood, which would be more beneficial to the area. Also to build a pervious path throughout some areas so that she can enjoy her wetlands, and also expand a balcony so that she can overlook at it, which would require a couple of posts to go into the wetland. She presented a very good argument. She is very much in favor of preserving the wetlands and nature, and so it was approved by the ZBA to incur minimal incursion into the wetland area in her property.
Very good. Any other? Yes.
So last, the 23rd, whenever it was, Wednesday, I think. Thursday. The Transportation Committee had their special committee meeting to review or to add any kind of comments they wanted for the climate sustainability plan. And I'll just hit some highlight points there. Our Commissioner here, Mr. McConnell, and doing public comment, talked about these cata stops that have been removed, the covered stops in the corridor, like in front of McDonald's, PetSmart, that where they were doing their construction for the new road there, looking to get those back in place to for added safety for passengers. And there were also comments on the plan itself, talked about bicycle safety education opportunity for adults and for families when it comes to bicycle safety and to walkers in the township. Then it was also mentioned by staff that looking at replacing wood retaining walls on Mount Hope and doing other maintenance and exploring the idea of purchasing electric vehicle, although it's becoming more expensive because of a program. My Deal is no longer in existence with the state or at the state, so it may take a hit on the budget if that were to happen. But those are some of the highlights that took place in that meeting. Mostly talking about safe pathways and how to maintain safety, bicycles and walkers.
Thank you. Any other liaisons? There was no Downtown Development Authority meeting this past month, so that was not an issue. Nothing else then? All right then, close item 11, project updates. Is there a project report?
You know, it's quiet time of the year for us, so hopefully we'll start getting some updates here shortly.
All right, so then we are into item number 13, public remarks. We still have some guests here from the public. Do any of you wish to address the board? No? All right. Then is there a motion to adjourn?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right.